let us look at a second example of calculating free float. We are presented with this information, and if you recall, this is the information for the network diagram starting with multiple activities and ending with multiple activities. So we'll not take the pain to go stepwise on how to draw a network diagram. We would repeat what we have done in the previous lessons to aid the calculation of the free float. We added the new information to the EDM notation, which is the free float. And if you recall, the total float is LS minus ES or LF minus EF. Now let us draw the precedence diagram. With our activities E, F, E, J, H, and I. Let us fill the activities with the necessary informations. So you recall that the critical path was B, E, G, and H. So with this, we have to calculate the free float on all these activities. And we repeat the formula. Free float is the early start of the minimum of succeeding activities minus the early start of the current activity minus the current activity's duration. Or it is the early start of the next activity minus the early start of the current activity. So let's start with activity A. Let's calculate the free float. So the early start of the succeeding activity is 3 minus the early start of activity A is 0 minus its duration 3, giving us 0. Use the second formula. It is the early start of the succeeding activity minus the early finish of the current activity. So that is 3 minus 3, giving us 0. For activity B, we have the early start of the succeeding activity minus the early start of the current activity. So that is 5 minus 0 minus its duration 5, giving us 0. Or using the second formula, it is 5 minus 5, that is 0. For activity C, we have 5 minus 0 minus 3. Using the first formula and using the second formula, it is 5 minus 3, giving us 2. That is the 5 at the early start for activity E minus 3 being the early finish for activity C. So for activity D, it is 9 minus 3 minus 6 or 9 minus 9. For activity E, it is 12 minus 5 minus 7 or it is 12 minus 12. For activity F, it is 13, which is the minimum, minus 9 minus 4, which is 0, or it is 13 minus 13, giving us 0. So in this case, we use the minimum. Using the first formula, it is the minimum. So the succeeding activity for F is either J or H. And between J and H, the minimum is 13. That is why we chose 13 minus the early start of F minus its duration. Now let's look at activity G. Activity G comes with 17 as its early start of the succeeding activity, that is age, minus 12 minus 5, giving us 0, or 17 minus 17, giving us 0. But for these ending activities, which doesn't have a succeeding activity, the float for J is 7, so the total float, okay, for H, the float for H is 0, so the free float is 0. The float for J is 7, which is the total float for J is 7, and hence the free float is also 7. And finally, the total float for I is 4, and hence the free float is also 4. Yeah, so we have to note that the free float is less or equal to the total float.